We're going to look today at using dialogue in your writing. Dialogue is a wonderful way of making your stories more interesting and bringing them to life. So I'm going to start by reading a dialogue that is from the Magic Treehouse book. It's from Twister on Tuesday by Mary Pope Osborne. Jack bumped into Annie. She was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. "Tuesday," they both whispered. Together they hurried down the stairs. "Mom and Dad, we're going out for a few minutes," Jack shouted. "Don't you want breakfast first?" his dad called from the kitchen. "When we get back," said Annie. So the dialogue here makes the story more interesting and really brings it to life. So we're going to look at some patterns so you can use dialogue in your writing. So the first thing I want you to look at is how the indentation works here. So let's take a look. So we have sort of the regular part of the talking going on, then we start a quotation with a new paragraph. And here they're both talking. And then we have more actions. We have a new paragraph. Now it's going to be Jack talking, new paragraph, and Jack's talking. Now his dad's talking. Again, we have a new paragraph. Now we have Annie talking, and we have a new paragraph. So these paragraphs break it up so we don't get confused. So the little rule to remember, the pattern that you see is when there's a new paragraph or a new person, you have a new paragraph. So NP, NP, new person, new paragraph. So hopefully that will help you remember when to start a new paragraph. Go ahead, make sure you pause the video and write that pattern down on your piece of paper. Okay, and now we're going to look for another pattern. And I'm going to show this pattern here. And you definitely want to pause and write this down too. And so this is what the pattern looks like. We have quotation, a capital T, and this is the talking. Then we end with an exclamation, a comma, or a question mark in the quotation, name said. So let's take a look at how this works. So we have the quotation here, and there's the quotation right there. Talking, capital T, when, capital W. Here's what Annie says, when we get back. So here's all your talking. And then you're either going to have an exclamation, a comma, or a question. And so it would be a period, but in this case it's a comma because period's not one of our options. And then we have the quotation, quotation, name said, and this can actually go in either direction. So we have said, Annie. It would also sound right if it said Annie said. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one of the paragraphs or the dialogues. So we have the quotation, quotation, talking with capital D. Don't you want to get breakfast first? Then we have a punctuation. In this case, it's a question, so we have a question mark. That's one of their choices. And quotation, quotation. And then we're going to go for his name. So his dad, and the said, or how he says, called from the kitchen, period, period. So we're going to go and write a sentence following this paragraph here. So we're going to say, my mom is going to tell me, don't forget your homework. So we're going to start with quotation. Now we need to put in what she said. Don't forget your homework. Don't forget your homework. And I have a choice. I can do an exclamation, a comma for a period, or a question that's not a question. I'm going to make an exclamation. Don't forget your homework. We have the quotation, the name, my mom. I can use said. I could use shouted. I could use yelled. I'm going to say my mom shouted. I need my period. So don't forget your homework. My mom shouted. If you forget this pattern, you can always go ahead and recreate it. And so you can just find a quotation anywhere in a book and you can recreate it. So go ahead and take a look at this. You go, okay, quotation, quotation, capital, oh, that's my talking, with my capital T. And then you go on over here, write exclamation. I have three choices: exclamation, comma, question mark, quotation, quotation, my mom, name, shouted, and that's for said. Doesn't matter if it's said, yelled, whispered, period, period. And here you've recreated the pattern. So if you forget, go ahead and find a book and look for the pattern. So go ahead and make sure you pause and take this as a note. How are you going to remember this pattern if you forget it? So make sure you bring your stories to life and add in some dialogue.